I was lacing up my running shoes, already thinking about the rhythm of my feet on the sidewalk, when Henry walked in from the gym. He was flushed, muscles pumped. He looked good, always did. And for a second, I felt the old spark, the one that used to make me pause and just look at him. You look great, babe. But I gotta run. Don't need all the eggs. He smirked, tugging my ponytail. Hurry back. I'll be waiting. I left the garage door up. Just a careless moment. Who thinks about locking everything when you're already late for your own routine? When I got back, drenched and breathing hard, Henry was sitting on the living room couch, staring at nothing. His hair was still wet from the shower, but his face was pale. What happened? I asked, dropping my keys. You look like someone died. He exhaled, half laughing, half shocked. Someone did almost die. Me. From embarrassment. I was in the shower. Door opens. I figure it's you forgetting your phone or something, so I yell, "Hey, what's up?" And a man's voice answers. My stomach dropped. A man? Yeah. I lost it. Screamed. Full-on scream. Jumped out, yanked the curtain rod down with me. Showerhead went flying. Water everywhere. I slipped, tangled in plastic, but I got him. We hit the floor hard. I clocked him once in the head before I realized he was crying, like sobbing. Who was it? Ron, from 3 doors down, the quiet guy. I knew Ron by sight. Skinny, glasses, always walking with his shoulders hunched like he expected to be hit. What the hell was he doing in our bathroom? Henry rubbed his jaw. His roommates say he's been off. Enters any unlocked door he finds. They call him pathetic. Say he's going through a phase. He wouldn't even talk. Just cried the whole time I walked him home. We should report him. He's not dangerous, Odd. He's just broken. I feel bad for him. Of course he did. Henry was the guy who'd stop on the highway to help a stranger change a tire in the rain. It was one of the things I loved about him. Until it wasn't. He insisted that we invite Ron over for dinner that weekend. One meal. Give the guy a normal evening. Maybe it'll help. I sighed. If he's weird, he's gone. The dinner surprised me. Ron arrived with a bottle of grocery store Merlot and nervous hands. He barely spoke at first, but Henry kept the conversation going. Sports, video games, work. I watched Ron slowly relax, shoulders dropping, small smiles appearing. You jog every morning? He asked me at one point, voice soft. Yeah, keeps me sane. Well, you look really strong, healthy. It's impressive. I felt my cheeks warm. Henry hadn't said anything like that in years. Thanks, Ron. After we ate, Henry pulled out the PS5. You play? Ron hesitated. A little. I'm terrible. Perfect. I need someone to beat. They played for almost 3 hours. I sat on the couch with a magazine, listening to their laughter, the trash talk, the easy way Henry included him. When Ron left, he turned at the door. Thank you, both of you. I don't get invited places. Henry clapped his shoulder. Come back anytime, man. And he did. Ron started dropping by the front yard when I was gardening or watering plants, especially when Henry was at work. We'd talk. Nothing deep at first, just small things. Movies, books, the neighbor's new dog. And then, one afternoon, he said quietly, "You're really beautiful, Audrey. Not just pretty, beautiful. The way you carry yourself, it's powerful." I froze. No one had spoken to me like that in years. Not Henry, not anyone. I laughed it off, embarrassed. Oh, you're sweet. I'm serious. I'm a photographer, mostly portraits. I'd love to shoot you sometime if you're interested. I thought he was joking. Me? With my extra everything? Especially you. Real women are what I love capturing. I surprised myself by saying yes. The first session was innocent. Living room, natural light, me in jeans and a loose tee. He moved me gently. Chin up, hand on hip, soft smile. Perfect. You're a natural. The photos were stunning. I looked strong, soft, real. For once, I didn't flinch at my reflection. A week later, I asked to see more of his work. He hesitated, and then opened a private folder on his laptop. The images were breathtaking. Women of every size, shape, age. Just truth. Beauty in every fold, every stretch mark. It's about expressing the real you, he said. I want that. We started slow. Second session. Ron's voice was calm, professional. You're magnificent. Just breathe. Third session. Ron was very professional, adjusting lights, giving directions. Arm here, head back. Yes, perfect. By the fourth, I was completely free. I felt terrified, then powerful, then free. It became our routine. Twice a week, after Henry left for work, I'd pose, let myself be seen. Just the camera, the quiet instructions, the way that he'd sometimes whisper, "You're breathtaking," like a prayer. I changed. Not the outside, my body stayed the same, but the inside. I stopped sucking in my stomach when I passed mirrors. I wore tighter dresses. I looked at my reflection and I thought, this is me, and she's beautiful. Henry found out on a Tuesday. He was supposed to be at a late meeting. Instead, the front door slammed open mid-shoot. I was posing on the rug when he walked in. For one frozen second, no one moved. And then Henry roared, "What the hell is this?" I scrambled for the throw blanket. "Henry, wait!" He grabbed Ron's camera, ripped it from his hands, and smashed it against the wall. Plastic and glass sprayed across the hardwood. "You piece of he yelled at Ron. "You perverted little..." Ron backed up, hands raised. It's hard. It's her choice." Henry turned on me. The sting was immediate, hot, shocking. I tasted blood inside my mouth. "You're posing for the neighbor? You're disgusting!" I'd never seen Ron angry, not once. But he stepped forward, small frame trembling, and swung. "Mrs. Williams is the most beautiful woman who has ever walked this earth. How dare you lay a hand on her?" Henry touched his face, stunned. Then, furious. "To hell with both of you!" He stormed upstairs, threw clothes in a duffel, and left. The front door slammed so hard a picture rattled on the wall. I stood there, cheek throbbing. Ron looked at me, eyes wet. I'm sorry. I didn't mean..." "Don't," I said. "He's the one who should be sorry." Henry didn't come back. He texted once, "I'm done. Keep the house. Don't call." That was it. The weeks after were quiet, lonely. But Ron never left me alone in the silence. He came over with coffee, sat on the porch while I gardened, listened when I cried. He never pushed, never asked for anything, just stayed. I kept modeling for him. More sessions, better poses, more of myself on display. He sent a portfolio to a plus-size agency on my birthday. "You're ready," he told me one day. "They need to see you." 3 months later, I got the call. A major brand wanted me for a body positivity campaign. Real women. My face ended up inside one of my favorite magazines. The headline read, This is beauty. I bought 10 copies. Ron came over that evening. We sat on the couch, the magazine open between us. I traced my own face on the glossy page. Look at that. That's me. That's you. The whole world gets to see what I've seen all along. I looked at him. Really looked. The quiet man who had walked into my life through an open door, who had never once crossed a line, who'd stood up for me when no one else had. Thank you, I told him. I remember that winter like it was yesterday, even though it's been 5 years now. It was one of those brutal Midwestern colds that seeped into your bones. And on top of it, I got hit with the worst case of strep throat I'd ever had. My throat felt like someone had scraped it raw with a cheese grater, swollen and throbbing with every swallow. Talking? Forget that. Even whispering sent shards of pain shooting up my neck. I was a mess. Feverish, achy, and just trying to survive the day without keeling over. My wife, Grace, was a saint through it all. We had 2 little kids back then. Our daughter, Mia, who was 4 and full of energy, and our son, Jack, barely 2 and teething like a demon. Grace juggled them both while I lay in bed, doped up on antibiotics and painkillers. "Oh, babe, you look like death warmed over," she'd say, pressing a cool cloth to my forehead. "Just rest. I'll handle everything." That evening, she decided to take the kids over to her parents' house for dinner. "I need a break, and you need quiet," she told me as she bundled them up in their coats. Mia was whining about wanting to stay with Daddy, but Grace scooped her up with a kiss. "Oh, Daddy's sick, sweetie. We'll bring you back some pie." Jack just gurgled happily in his carrier. I managed a weak wave from the couch, my voice too wrecked to say much. "Love you," I croaked, sounding like a frog on its last legs. Once they were gone, the house felt eerily empty. I popped another dose of meds, some heavy-duty stuff that the doctor prescribed, and dragged myself to bed. The sheets were cool against my hot skin, and I conked out almost immediately, dreaming feverish nonsense about chasing shadows through endless hallways. I woke up maybe an hour later, disoriented and groggy. The room was dark, the only light filtering in from the hallway. Now, at first, I thought it was the meds playing tricks on me. But then I heard it. A low, male voice murmuring something indistinct. My heart jumped. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Chicago. Not exactly crime central, but break-ins happened. Grace had mentioned the neighborhood watch emailing about some sketchy activity lately. Cars getting rifled through, that sort of thing. I sat up slowly, my head pounding. The voice continued, soft and casual, like the guy was chatting on the phone. "Yeah, this one looks good." "Nah, I've seen that already." What the hell? I slipped out of bed, barefoot on the cold hardwood floor, and crept toward the door. Our guest bedroom was right across the hall, and as I peeked in, my stomach dropped. There, on the bed, was our DVD player, unplugged and sitting there like it had been yanked from the living room shelf. Next to it, a haphazard stack of movies, action flicks, rom-coms, even some of Grace's guilty pleasure chick flicks like The Notebook and Pride and Prejudice. Adrenaline surged through me, burning away the fog from the meds. Someone was in my house, robbing us blind. The voice was coming from downstairs now, clearer. "Hey, check this out. They got the whole Marvel collection. Sweet." My mind raced. Grace and the kids were out. I was alone. I thought about calling 911, but my phone was charging in the kitchen. And my voice was shot anyway. No way I could yell for help. And that's when I remembered the pistol. Grace hated guns, but after a close call with a road rage incident a couple of years back, I had insisted on getting one. It was locked in the bedside safe, a compact 9mm. I punched in the code with shaking fingers, our anniversary date. and felt the cold metal in my hand. I wasn't some action hero. I'd only fired it at the range a few times. But in that moment, with my family potentially in danger if this guy came back, I felt like I had no choice. I eased down the hallway, pistol gripped tight, safety off. My throat burned, but I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breath. The stairs creaked under my weight, and I froze, listening. The voice was in the living room now. "Babe, you gotta see this. They've got Titanic. Classic." Babe? Was there more than one? My pulse thundered in my ears. At the bottom of the stairs, I paused, peering around the corner. There he was. A tall guy, mid-20s, rummaging through our entertainment center. Jeans, hoodie, dark hair. He had a pile of DVDs in his arms, oblivious. I stepped out, raising the gun. "On the ground!" I tried to shout, but it came out as this pathetic, raspy wheeze. Half cough, half whisper, like a dying engine. It was the most ridiculous sound, barely audible over the hum of the fridge. The guy spun around, eyes wide as saucers. The DVDs clattered to the floor. "Holy shit!" he yelped. And then, I'll never forget this, a dark stain spread down the front of his jeans. He pissed himself right there, hands shooting up. Don't shoot! Please, man, don't shoot! Oh, God!" I kept the gun trained on him, my hands steady despite the fever. "Who the hell are you?" I rasped, coughing at the effort. He was babbling now, backing up against the wall. I'm Chris, Emily's boyfriend. You're your sister-in-law. We're just borrowing movies. Grace said it was okay." Emily? Grace's younger sister? A few days earlier, before the strep hit full force, Grace had mentioned that Emily was bringing her new guy over for dinner. But I'd been too sick and we had postponed. "Emily?" I croaked, lowering the gun a fraction. "Mark! Oh my God! Put the gun down!" Emily screamed, her face pale. This is Chris! I told Grace we'd stop by! She said that you were sleeping and to grab some DVDs! We didn't want to wake you!" I lowered the pistol completely, feeling like the biggest idiot on the planet. My throat seized up again. Chris was still against the wall, pants soaked, muttering, "Jesus, I thought I was dead. Damn, man, I'm so sorry." Emily grabbed a throw blanket from the couch and tossed it to him. "Here, cover up." "Mark, are you okay? You sound awful." She eyed the gun warily as I set it on the coffee table and then unloaded it with trembling hands. "Grace didn't tell you? We knocked, but no answer. The door was unlocked. Grace said that it would be. I needed a quick shower after work, and Chris waited down here." I sank onto the couch, the adrenaline crash hitting me like a wave. "No, she must have forgotten. Strep, can't talk." My voice was a whisper, but they got the gist. Chris, still shaking, wrapped the blanket around his waist. "Dude, that was intense. I mean, I get it, protecting your home and all, but warn a guy next time? Warn him? You almost got us both killed. I'm so sorry, Mark. We should have left a note or something. Grace is gonna kill me when she hears this." I managed a weak chuckle, which turned into another cough. "Pissed himself," I rasped, pointing at Chris. He groaned, face red. "Yeah, laugh it up. First time meeting the family, and I wet my pants like a kid. Great impression." We sat there for a minute, the tension easing into awkward silence. Emily disappeared upstairs to grab clothes from the guest room. Apparently, she had stashed some there for visits. Chris cleaned up in the bathroom, borrowing a pair of my sweatpants. These fit okay?" he asked sheepishly when he came out. "Sorry about the mess." "No worries," I whispered, waving it off. Truth was, I felt bad for the guy. He seemed decent, polite, even after nearly getting shot. "Okay, crisis averted. Want some tea, Mark, for your throat? I nodded, and she bustled into the kitchen like nothing happened. Chris picked up the scattered DVDs. So, still okay if we borrow these? Emily's obsessed with movie nights.
Yeah, take them.
Over the years, it has become family legend. At holidays, Chris still jokes, "Yeah, remember when Mark almost shot me?" Emily rolls her eyes, "And you peed your pants." They've been married 3 years now, with a baby on the way. Me? My throat healed, but I learned to double-check doors and texts from Grace. I never met my grandfather in the way most grandkids do, sitting on his knee, hearing war stories, or getting pocket money slipped under the table. He passed away when I was just 5, but his legend loomed large in our family, especially in the tale my mom would tell me on those quiet nights when Dad was out late, pretending to work overtime. This story isn't pretty, and it's not the kind Mom shared at PTA meetings or holiday dinners. It's raw, but it's ours. And looking back, it's what made me who I am. A woman who checks her own bank statements twice and never lets a man hold all the cards. It all started many years ago, in a sleepy suburb outside Chicago where my parents had scraped together just enough for a modest 2-bedroom house. Mom was 28, pregnant with me, her first child, and glowing in that way only first-time moms do before reality hits. Dad was 30, working as an accountant at a mid-sized manufacturing firm. He wasn't a bad guy on the surface, but underneath there was this restlessness, like he was always chasing something just out of reach. That's how he ended up as treasurer for the company's photography club. It was a hobby group, nothing fancy. Employees snapping pictures of factory picnics, kids' soccer games, maybe the occasional bird in the park. They pooled dues for film, cameras, and darkroom supplies. Dad handled the books, and no one questioned him because, well, he was the numbers guy. But Dad had been dipping into that fund for months. Little bits at first. A 20 here for a bar tab, a 50 there for a poker game with the guys. It added up. By the time Mom was 7 months along, he had siphoned off close to $2,000. Now, in today's money, that's nothing. But back then, it was huge. The club was planning a big exhibit. Needed the cash for prints and frames. When the president asked for an update, Dad knew that the jig was up. He panicked. Instead of confessing or scraping together the repayment, he decided to bolt. Packed a duffel bag with clothes, his passport, and whatever cash he had left. His plan? Head to his cousin's place in Texas, lay low, maybe start over, leave Mom high and dry, swollen with me, facing the shame alone. I can picture it now, though I wasn't there yet, not really. Mom told me how she had felt me kicking that morning extra hard, like I knew that something was wrong. She was in the kitchen stirring oatmeal when Dad came downstairs with the bag slung over his shoulder. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice steady but her hands trembling on the spoon. "Business trip," he lied, not even looking at her. "Last minute thing. Be back in a few days." Mom wasn't buying it. She'd noticed the missing receipts, the late nights. But before she could press, the front door creaked open. In walked her brother, Uncle Mike, and Grandpa. They'd dropped by unannounced. Something about fixing a leaky faucet that Grandpa had promised weeks ago. Pure chance, or fate, depending on how you see it. They froze in the entryway, tools in hand, staring at Dad with his getaway bag. "What's this?" Grandpa growled, his voice like gravel. He was a big man, ex-steelworker, hands calloused from decades at the mill. Dad stammered, Just heading out, work stuff." But Grandpa's eyes narrowed on the bag and then flicked to Mom's belly. He dropped the toolbox and lunged, grabbed Dad by the throat, pinned him against the wall. Dad's feet dangled an inch off the ground. "You son of a Grandpa hissed. "You running out on my daughter? On your own kid?" Dad choked, face turning red. Let go, please." Uncle Mike hovered, ready to jump in, but Grandpa didn't need help.
I know about the money, you weasel. The club's buzzing. If you ever pull a stunt like this again, ever think about leaving her, I'll swear to God you'll be dead before you hit the ground. His grip tightened, veins bulging in his neck. Dad's eyes bulged too. And then the wet spot spread down his pants. He pissed himself right there. Grandpa released him. Dad crumpled, sobbing. I'm sorry. Please don't tell anyone. Mom stood there, hand on her belly, tears streaming. But she didn't rush to him. Get out of my sight, she whispered. And then they all sat at the kitchen table while Dad spilled it all. The embezzling, the fear of jail. Grandpa listened, stone-faced. How much? He demanded. About $1,800, Dad mumbled. Grandpa sighed and pulled out his checkbook. He had saved every penny from his pension, but his family came first. I'll cover it, but you owe me. And if this comes back, it's on you. Dad nodded, still shaking. Thank you. I swear I'll pay you back. Mom exploded then. Pay him back? You think money fixes this? You deserve worse. You were going to leave us? For what? Your stupid mistakes? Uncle Mike pulled her back gently. Sis, easy. Think of the baby. Grandpa just watched, approving. That was the end of Dad's free reign. The next day, Mom marched to the bank, Belly leading the way. She had them freeze his access to the joint account, set up a separate one for bills and savings. I can't trust you, she told Dad that night as he nursed his blistered chest with aloe. Not with money, not with us. I get it, he whispered, head down. I'll make it right. But words are cheap. Mom went back to work 3 months after I was born, teaching at the local elementary school, juggling diapers and lesson plans. She built her own safety net, stashing away every extra dollar. Dad stuck around, but he was never able to pay back the complete amount to Grandpa. By the time I was 10, Mom sat me down. Honey, men can let you down, she said, brushing my hair. Even the ones you love. That's why you always have your own plan. Did you ever forgive him? I asked. She paused. Forgive? Maybe. Forget? Never. But I stayed for you and for me. I wasn't going to let his screw-up define us. Dad overheard once during one of their rare fights. You still throwing that in my face? He yelled. It was years ago! Because it matters. You almost ruined everything. He stormed out, but he always came back. As I got older, I pieced together more details. Uncle Mike filled in gaps over beers when I turned 21. Your granddad was a force, he said, chuckling. Your dad pissed himself. Classic. But seriously, kid, your mom? She's the hero. Went back to work. Raised you right. Proud of her. The music was set low. Typical. Just how they always played music so that one could hear the voices of patrons drinking at their tables across the room. I always loved it there since I found the spot on a cold night out 3 weeks ago. The atmosphere was cool, just like the 90s blues that filled the air with its patient crooning. I was on my second drink. The first had been a potent combination of tequila, lemon, and salt. It had hit my stomach and pulled out the anxiety from my core. In a way that was unusual, I felt more at ease with the crowd around me. I was staring at the plant on the table when our eyes hooked on each other. It was the most stunning moment of my life in months. I was sure my heart skipped more than a couple of beats at this muse of a moment. I downed the second shot before me in a blink, dusted my suit, and approached her with all the pretense of an important figure as I could muster. Our talk was smooth, easy chatter,
like minds that had found each other in the strangest of places. She mentioned her name was Jennifer, and I told her my name, David. I was a writer pining for company, and she yearned for companionship. I was hooked indeed. All of my loneliness evaporated with each sentence that billed our conversation. I could not deny myself the ache for her scent. She perceived it in me and said we could go back to her place. What fear could I have? She did not seem dangerous. I had seen women like her in many cities of the world. I awoke each morning with the smell of their body in my breath. There was no debate as to the invitation. "I have Netflix," she said to me on the drive home, as though it were supposed to make me excited. "Visual stimulation," she clarified. "It helps younger writers like me with inspiration." I sighed and contained myself until I was inside of her house. "No dogs? Cats?" I asked, puzzled by how quiet the house was. Almost as though the quiet was artificial, amplified deliberately to conceal some other problem. It was the first sign something was wrong, but I had not thought about it too deeply. "No, just me," she answered, shrugging as she walked around the sitting room, setting up the television set as I sat on the couch. "What do you watch on Netflix?" I didn't know. I don't watch television. So I asked her to put on her favorite show, and I'll enjoy it with her. I added that I hope it's as good as her self-published work, an excerpt of which I had read during our ride back to her house. She laughed at the joke and promised to make sure it's a movie I like. Then she stopped abruptly and stared down a door which had been shut when we had walked in. I followed her line of sight, and the door was open. "That's weird," I blurted, before I could recollect my thoughts on what was happening around me. A sense of what was amiss gnawed at my gut, and I had an urge to leave. But I thought against it because it would be rude to leave my host's house at such a short notice. Jennifer tried to smile, but her face betrayed a mirthless sense of confusion. My heart started to beat faster than it usually would. The adrenaline fed my senses with such a stimulation as I had never felt before. In that moment, knowing something terrifying was about to happen and not knowing how, I broke into a sweat. "Is your house haunted?" I asked quietly, hoping for humor to break down the suffocating tension in the room. "No, it's not," she replied and gulped. I knew she was telling the truth, but the way she stared, it was a blank stare into nothing, into the dark passageway as though there was some force conjuring her attention to it. "Are you possessed?" I was able to rein my thoughts in with some regulation before the words left my mouth. My instinctive reaction was of utter terror, and my feet felt the compulsion to escape. But the writer part of me wanted to see it through, however frightening the night ended. "God, no," she muttered repeatedly, as though it helped the fact that I was almost shitting my pants seated on her couch. "Jennifer!" I barked, and she jumped, startled to even look at me. Her eyes watered up, and she struggled to manage her attention between me and the open passageway. "Leave, David," she said to me. I was hesitant. "What about Netflix?" I said, beside myself with dread but unwilling to show it. I could feel it. She had bled her fear on me, and even the nails of my fingers had gone cold from the infection. It mattered more that I was afraid of what was happening because I did not know what was happening. Jennifer picked her hands up and started to move forward in gingerly steps. Each step was like watching a horror movie play out in front of me with real-life consequences. My belly folded in on itself, and my stomach juices rolled up to the back of my tongue. "Please, don't hurt him. I'm tired of you doing this. How did you find me?" Jennifer cried as she approached the door. Gently as she could, she lay her hands on the door to close it. A hand from inside the dark passageway reached out and pulled her by the hair. I jumped in my seat and scrambled to the floor in sheer fright.
The thoughts in my head went wild from the surge. The lashing noise of Jennifer's body whipping against the floor set my entire body on alert. I turned around as a monstrous man, eyes red with rage, slipped out of the darkness. "You can never get rid of me. I'll kill every man that touches you until you want me again," the man cried. "Hey, man, I apologize. I didn't know she was yours." I begged for my life, seeing no sense in trying to escape, as he looked like he would outrun me. He slipped his hands into his pants quietly and retrieved a long, glistening knife. "I'll cut you up," he said, "limb from limb, just like the others." My life flashed before my eyes when he started to approach me. I thought of everything I had done and the life that it had gifted me. Childhood reeled into teenage years and adulthood. It was all painfully fast, and I awaited death with bated breath. My head drumming loudly and my heart almost pumping out of my chest, I had surrendered to my fate. Before I heard the loud gunshot echo through the atmosphere. With a single bullet to the center of his head, I saw the monster of a man collapse to his face in front of me. Jennifer held the gun in her trembling hands and muttered words of how she was tired of her volatile ex who would not let her be, chasing her from city to city and making her life a living hell. She cussed at his body and kicked him. Then she turned to me. "Leave, David," she said. Shaken by the traumatic experience, I left straight for the hospital for some help from the horrifying experience I had just experienced.